Right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear participants. Welcome to this session of textual study of the Quran. We have just begun Surah Yunus, the 10th Surah of the Quran, in our last session. And today, inshallah, we'll be continuing with it. Just a few introductory words about this Surah. We have seen that this chapter to which this surah belongs. This is the third chapter of the Quran. The surahs that are revealed in this chapter in the Meccan phase belong to the phase of conclusive communication, which means that the truth had been conveyed to the addressees. The addressees are the Quraysh, mostly in the surah. First 14 surahs, they are Meccan in nature, and the only Medinan surah is the last and the 15th surah, which is Surah Nur. Primarily, the tone and the content of these surahs is a little bit harsh, a little bit strict, but because we are talking about that phase of the Prophet's mission in which some years had passed. In fact, we can say maybe more than 10 years had passed, and the way in which, or just about 10 years, I would say, in which the conclusive communication of truth had taken place, which meant that the Quraysh were absolutely aware of the message of the Quran. They knew that whatever it is telling them about, and the fact that the messenger that has come to them is absolutely from God, and the message that he has brought with him is also from God. But they started to intentionally deny this truth, and that is why, and that is because of which we see that the Quran has become, or we see that the tone that it adopts regarding them is quite strict and quite harsh, because a person who knows the truth and still uh, does not follow it, does not accept it, is of course someone who needs to be ticked off a little bit. So the verses today, starting with verse 15, وَإِذَا تُتْلَى عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُنَا بَيِّنَاتٍ قَالَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَرْجُونَ لِقَاءَنَا ائْتِ بِقُرْآنٍ غَيْرِ هَذَا أَوْ بَدِّلْهُ قل ما يكون لي أن أبدله من تلقاء نفسي إن أتبع إلا ما يوحى إلي إني أخاف إن عصيت ربي عذاب يوم عظيم. But their situation too is the same, O Prophet, that when our clear revelations are recited before them, then those who do not have fear of meeting us say, bring another Quran instead of this, or change it. Say, this is God's word. What right do I have to change it myself? I only follow the revelation that is sent to me. If I disobey my Lord, I fear the punishment of a horrible day. So, viewers, as you can clearly see, that these disbelievers at this time, they understood to some extent that the non-compromising message of the Quran is something that they were dealing with, but still they had requested that if this Quran should be changed a little bit, or a different type of Quran should come to the fore. And of course, the intent that they had was that some accommodation should be made, that Muslims should follow their own prophets and their own ideals, and the idolaters should not be bothered if they are following more than one God. So they wanted to strike a compromise. And for this, they had actually requested the Prophet, because you see, their allegation was that the Prophet uh, uh, was actually the author of the Quran. So the Quran has on numerous occasions told them that this is not the case. It is the Almighty who has sent down this book, and the Quran has that divine origin. So in reply, the Prophet is being said that he should tell them that I don't have the authority. I don't have the authority to change the Quran. And this is because it is neither ready to reconcile with their polytheistic beliefs, nor does it give any importance to their religious rituals, which they are so very proud of. So it's like a very sharp answer. And the Prophet has said that in attabi'u illa ma yuha ilayya, that I only follow what has been revealed to me. I just cannot make any change. I am subservient to God. And remember, this is something which all prophets of God, they express in a very unequivocal manner. And as the Quran states this also in very succinct words, "Inni akhafu in asaitu rabbi azaba yawmin azim," which says that if I disobey my Lord, I fear the punishment of a horrible day. So the Prophet himself is someone who, like a humble servant of God, stood before people and said that, how can you expect that I change the message of God? Is that even possible? Is that even something that you can think of? Because as a servant of God, I am as duty bound as you. I have the same responsibility, in fact, more. So if I disobey God, then I fear that He would punish me. And this is the status of a prophet of God, a messenger of God, that in spite of being chosen for this task, he very well knows that he will be dealt equally by God if he deviates in any respect from the truth. So, such is this level of justice, the stage of justice that you can see being reflected from this verse. قُلْ لَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ مَا تَلَوْتُهُ عَلَيْكُمْ وَلَا أَدْرَاكُمْ بِهِ فَقَدْ لَبِثْتُ فِيكُمْ عُمَرًا مِنْ قَبْلِهِ أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. Say, had God willed, I would neither have recited this Quran to you, nor would you have informed you, nor would God have informed you of it. It is His decision alone, because I have spent a whole life among you before this. When have I uttered such words? Then do you not use your intellect? So you see, this is like a profound statement in favor of what is said above, that no upright person can dare deny it. The implication is to ask when these people have seen the Prophet taking interest in these topics, or expressing his views about them, or rehearsing to compile them, or learning some disciplines of knowledge about them. So, had he been aware of writing and reading and talking about these issues, they could have had some inkling that, well, he has authored the Quran. But remember, he has spent a whole 40 years among them. They have not seen him writing or reading or making these statements. Have they ever seen any signs of development in his life in whatever he's saying them today? So suddenly, out of nowhere, he is producing a miraculous discourse, something which is inimitable. And they know that a human being cannot present anything in any phase of its age of which signs are not found in its previous stages. So if I was an author, it should have come out much before me. So it's not that people become writers and authors at the age of 40. So they have signs of this authorship, they have signs of this scholarship in their previous life. So this is precisely a very strong argument in favor of prophethood, that it is something that dawned upon him, something that he was given by God at a particular age, and then he was in this position to convey this to other people. And they allege that he is lying. So, have they ever seen a semblance of falsity, deception, or forgery in his character and conduct? Because till that date, they had regarded him to be Sadiq and Amin. So, remember, it was the Quraysh who had given this title to him, his own tribe, that he's the most truthful of all person and he's most trustworthy. So, how can he suddenly start saying words which are beyond human recognition? So no one can do this. So as you can see, viewers, this is one of the strongest cases in point regarding the messenger of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and that is why the verse ends on a warning. It says, "Afala taqilun." Do you not understand? Do you not give enough attention to this? فَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ فَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنِ افْتَرَى عَلَى اللَّهِ كَذِبًا أَوْ كَذَّبَ بِآيَاتِهِ إِنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الْمُجْرِمُونَ. So, who will be more unjust than the person who imputes falsehood to God or denies his revelation? In reality, such wrongdoers shall never succeed. The thing is that if these verses are not revelations of God, and if he is presenting them as if he has authored them himself, then who can be more unjust than him? On the other hand, if he is truthful and they are denying God's revelation, then who can be more unjust than them? So it's like a comparison which is being made, that if they are authoring this and if they think that the Prophet is authoring this, of course, these are two diametrically opposite claims which cannot exist. Innahu la yuflihul mujrimun. In reality, such wrongdoers never succeed. Their allegations may be accepted in this world, but not in the hereafter. These wrongdoers are bound to face humiliation in the hereafter. They might temporarily succeed in this world by making these allegations, but they cannot continue with them. And one day, all their lies will be exposed. وَيَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ مَا لَا يَضُرُّهُمْ وَلَا يَنْفَعُهُمْ وَيَقُولُونَ هَؤُلَاءِ شُفَعَاؤُنَا عِندَ اللَّهِ قُلْ أَتُنَبِّئُونَ اللَّهَ بِمَا لَا يَعْلَمُ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَلَا فِي الْأَرْضِ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى عَمَّا يُشْرِكُونَ. At this time also they are imputing falsehoods. Thus they are worshipping those besides God who can neither harm nor benefit them, and say, These are our intercessors before God. Tell them, do you wish to inform God of that which he himself has no knowledge? Neither in the heavens nor in the earth. He is pure and exalted from what they associate as partners. So once again, it's like a ticking off that they are getting, and this is much like saying that, well, how is it possible that these things can be happen? If their associates existed, then the being who would have been the most informed about them would be the one who they are associating with. So if there was any semblance of existence of these associates or these deities, who else but God would have known them better? Now, when He does not know them, it may well be that how big an imaginative lie that they are imputing to God. And that is why it is said that these are individuals who just cannot cause any benefit or harm. And it is God Himself who knows all this, and he is absolutely absolved from any speck of being associated with. No one can associate anyone. There can be nothing found in the scriptures in favor of this association of partners with God. So how do they actually go about even trying to convince other people about it? وما كان الناس إلا أمة واحدة فاختلفوا ولولا كلمة سبقت من ربك لقضي بينهم فيما فيه يختلفون. They should not give reference of their forefathers with regard to this polytheism of theirs. In reality, people were one community only. Later, they have differed with one another, and had a matter not been decided by our Lord previously, the issue in which they are differing would have been decided among them. So, first of all, as you can see, there is this strong claim that in reality, people were one community. They started off as one ummah. And then fakhtalafu, they differed amongst themselves. The Almighty began this world on a religion that is found in human nature. At that time, all humanity believed in one God. They were all monotheists. Humanity did not begin with polytheism. Its beliefs were afflicted with this filth much later. So they have differed with one another because of the fact that it's something that they did purposefully. And had a matter not been decided by your Lord, which means had God not given this final verdict in settling differences, that this shall be done on the day of judgment. So until that time, these differences shall be put up with, so that people can be selected for paradise by making their intellect, their conscience, and their intuition undergo a trial. So God has given them this opportunity. He has selected a time in which these people, after which, of course, they will not be able to make any headway in this regard, and they'll be put to the severest of torment. And that is why it is said that there are certain things which shall only be decided on the day of judgment. وَيَقُولُونَ لَوْلَا أُنزِلَ عَلَيْهِ آيَةٌ مِّن رَبِّهِ فَقُلْ إِنَّمَا الْغَيْبُ لِلَّهِ فَانْتَظِرُوا إِنِّي مَعَكُمْ مِنَ الْمُنْتَظِرِينَ. And regarding what they say, that why was not a sign sent to their prophet by their Lord, tell them, these are matters of the unseen, and only God has knowledge of the unseen. So wait, I am also waiting. So, of course, the word ayah, it refers to the signs of God. And, of course, it refers to the verses of the Qur'an also, because they are also signs of God. And we can see from various verses, and especially in this regard, that here it refers to a sign of punishment. So the word ayah, although it generally means all sorts of signs, it also means the verses of the Quran. But in the context, as you will see, it is referring to the punishment that they demanded, that they be shown that punishment if ever it is truthful. And therefore it is said that the time of that punishment is something which is not to be decided by anyone except God. Not even the Prophet knows about it. So in this regard, they have to wait. Inni ma'akum minal muntazirin, and I'm also going to wait with you. وَإِذْ أَزَقْنَا النَّاسَ رَحْمَةً مِّن بَعْدِ الضَّرَّاءِ مَسَّتْهُمْ إِذَا لَهُم مَّكْرٌ فِي آيَاتِنَا قُلِ اللَّهُ أَسْرَعُ مَكْرًا إِنَّ رُسُلَنَا يَكْتُبُونَ مَا تَمْكُرُونَ. Such is the situation of people that they demand a sign of torment. But when we make them taste our mercy after some difficulty they have encountered, they start to present excuses about our signs at that very instant. Tell them, God is much smarter in His excuses. Bear in mind, Our angels are writing down the lame excuses you are presenting. So, when it is said that the matters they are sent to their prophet by their lords, tell them that these matters are of the unseen. So, what exactly is this referring to? So, matters are basically what is being said here is that whether God sends a sign of the punishment or the punishment itself to a nation which is being strengthened by it, that's not going to help them at all. And that is why it is said that this is not a desire to see people inflicted with punishment, but to wait with the yearning and sorrow for something which has become God's decision because of their stubbornness. And they promise. They start making excuses, and sometimes they promise that if this time they are saved from destruction, they will become grateful to God. And sometimes they philosophize, as the Quran would say, that these are ups and downs of time. So they would say that these are vicissitudes of time. Sorrows come and they go. They believe that such good and bad times and good and hard fortunes are encountered by every nation. And so, why should they be regarded as a warning from God or the consequence of a wrong belief or a deed? And that is why it is said that they have to understand that this is a scheme of God that He has actually, in principle, laid down for this earth. This is something that has to happen, and when people they in any way they are afflicted with sorrow, they immediately realize that well they have to turn to God. But when they are afflicted with happiness, they forget God. And then, of course, as you can see, it says that they start to present excuses about our signs at that very instant. Tell them God is much more smarter in his excuses. You should not present any such excuse. And that is why you have to see that as far as God is concerned, He has made enough arrangements to write down all what they do. Inna rusulana yaktubuna ma tamkurun, which means that my messengers, or of course here messengers refer to the angels because of course they are the staff of the Almighty in this matter. Yaktubuna ma tamkurun, they are writing down whatever excuses and whatever plots you are trying to based on his life. هو الذي يسيركم في البر والبحر حتى إذا كنتم في الفلك وجرينا بهم بريح طيبة ففرحوا بها جاءتها ريح عاصف وجاءهم الموج من كل مكان وظنوا أنهم أحيط بها دعوا الله مخلصين له الدين لئن أنجيتنا من هذه لنكونن من الشاكرين. An example of this is that it is God alone who makes you travel by land and by sea until when you are in a ship and the ships are sailing while taking along people in favorable winds and people are happy at this, suddenly a strong wind blows over it and waves begin to rise on the voyages of the ship from all sides, and they know that they have been caught in a storm. At that time, they call God in sincere obedience. If you deliver us from this, we shall certainly be among the grateful. So clearly you can see that this is a habitual thing that people undergo. And as far as human beings are concerned, they have to understand that it is God who makes them travel by land and by sea. They could not have conquered the ocean, they could not have discovered how to travel on the sea, nor by land. These ships that are set to sail in smooth waters, in difficult circumstances, this has only become possible because of the fact that mankind has been able to capture, they have been able to understand the reason through which they can harness the wind to their own advantage. The word actually, if you look at the Quran, is jaraina. And the reason that the word fulk is used in the singular is that in the Arabic language, this is something that is used for the singular, the plural, the masculine, and the feminine gender at the same time. It's something that is possible for all these. So the style of this discourse shows that it gives due deference to the parable that has become indirect from direct. So you see, if you look at the style, it's from direct to indirect, and it shows that it's more appropriate and effective in parables when they are stated in this regard. So as far as these people are concerned, they know that now these evil consequences that they are going to face is because of their own deeds. So as far as people are concerned, they immediately start to show rebelliousness in the land without any justification, as you can see in the coming verses. فَلَمَّا أَنْجَاهُمْ إِذَا هم يبغون في الأرض بغير الحق يا أيها الناس إنما بغيكم على أنفسكم متاع الحياة الدنيا ثم إلينا مرجعكم فننبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. Then, when he delivers them, they immediately start to show rebelliousness in the land without any justification. People, the evil consequence of your rebelliousness is going to come over you. Benefit from the life of the world. Then you have to return to us. At that time, we shall tell you what you had been doing. So clearly, as the previous verse tells us, and we know this is something of a happening that we all experience, that whenever trouble comes our way, we immediately start remembering God. But as soon as it goes away, we start forgetting God. And this is like something that mankind has to overcome. And that is why it is said that the evil consequences, of course, as you can see, they are basically, the words are, the evil consequence of your rebelliousness is going to come over you. So it's like telling people, first giving them a general example, how at times difficult circumstances, they make them realize that they are following a deviant path. But then it is these deviant circumstances from which at times they get so entangled, they get so involved in, that they tend to forget God, and they are fully inveigled by Satan, who wins a weave or weaves across them a spell that takes them away. So that is why we can see that from here onwards, the address is directly towards the Quraysh. The words are innama ya yuhannas innama baghyukum ala anfusikum. So a word of caution here, viewers, that might be of interest to you as well, that whenever you read words like annas, ya yuhannas, normally translators and exegetes translate it as O mankind, but never get carried away with this word. When you see that, I mean, you'll see that there is a specific context. It's not that all mankind is always addressed. And here, if you look at the context, basically the Quraysh, or the tribe of the Prophet, the Bani Ismail, they are being told, Innama baghyukum ala anfusikum, that the evil consequence of that rebelliousness that you are now showing. So remember, we just talked about the fact that the surah was revealed in the time when conclusive communication of the truth had almost been finished, or it was just about to finish. And the people, or the adversaries, were still showing signs of great rebelliousness. Instead of acquiescing to the truth, instead of submitting to the truth, they had gone towards the other side, and they had become rebellious. So this is like a final warning being given to them. It's whenever the Quran uses these words, always something that has to be kept in mind is that the Quran does not use specific address, so that people who can mend themselves, they are able to mend themselves. So the Quran takes it, I mean, gives a lot of time for people, or to people, to mend their ways, and only at a very final stage does it take their names or calls them by disbelievers. Otherwise, the address is only general, so that everyone can benefit from it. So innama baghyukum ala anfusikum, that this rebelliousness is going to be cost, something that can cost you, and you benefit from the life of this world. And then ultimately, as the Quran says, ilayna marji'ukum fanunabbi'ukum bima kuntum ta'malun, that then you will return to us and we will tell you what you had been doing. إنما مثل الحياة الدنيا كماء أنزلناه من السماء فاختلط به نبات الأرض مما يأكل الناس والأنعام حتى إذا أخذت الأرض زخرفها وزينت وظن أهلها أنهم قادرون عليها أتاها أمرنا ليلا أو نهارا فجعلناها حسيدا كأن لم تغن بالأمس كذلك نفسر الآيات لقوم يتفكرون. Now these are very profound verses. The example of this life of the world, which has made you heedless, is that of rain we sent down from the sky. Then thick foliage sprouted from the earth because of it. Those also which humans eat, and those too which animals eat. Until when the earth became lush, and it embellished itself, and the inhabitants of the earth thought that now they are in full control over it. Suddenly our verdict came over it at some time by night or by day. Then we chopped it to the ground in such a manner as if nothing was there yesterday. We mention in detail in this manner our revelations for those who reflect. So once again, you can see that it's like a severe warning. It's something that they have to understand on their own selves. They can benefit from this world, but ultimately they'll be returning to God. And of course, you can see that the inhabitants of the earth, they think that they are in full control over themselves, but ultimately this is something that gives way, their own imagination gives way, and this is an expression of the internal strength and desire, as a result of which the hearts of the owners become elated when they see that their crops bloom. So once again, if you look at the words, that they see that this world is like a place in which it flourishes, the crops bloom, and people eat from those crops. Their own animals eat from their crops, and then suddenly everything dies away. Ataha amruna laylan aw nahara, that then you will see that this thing ends, and once this ends, then it is something you will find as if it never existed in the past. So the things will be so thrashed out and flattened to the ground that as if they never existed. كَأَلَّمْ تَغْنِي تَغْنَ بِالْأَمْسِ, as if they never were there in the past. So God says that كَذَلِكَ نُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ, that in this manner do we detail out our revelation so that people can think that the way this world is temporary, the world, the way it blossoms and blooms and presents all that it has for humankind, and then once this happens, the crops that were grown, the fruits that were planted, the trees and the orchards that grew, all became, they just fell down on their own. And then they were so destroyed as if nothing existed in the past. So this is like a rehearsal of how God creates, and then that creation undergoes its own destruction once again to start again. And this is the cycle of life. This is how people are born, and then they go away, and then more people are born. But then this is not without a purpose. The purpose is something which is stated, that people are not created in vain. There is a purpose, and that purpose is to select people who have the mettle to enter the eternal abode of paradise. والله يدعو إلى دار السلام ويهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم للذين أحسنوا الحسنى وزيادة ولا يرهق وجوههم قتر ولا ذلة أولئك أصحاب الجنة هم فيها خالدون. People, you have been deceived by this worldly life, and God calls you to the abode of peace, and for this shows the straight path to whomsoever He wants to, in accordance with His law. Then those who showed goodness for them is goodness, and even more. Neither blackness will overspread their faces nor humiliation. It is they who are the people of paradise. They shall remain in it forever. So clearly you can see that towards paradise actually it's like a defined thing. It's a place where there will be no regrets for the past, no affairs of the future. It will be an abode of peace in its entirety. And that is why it is said that according to this law, people who desire the straight path are worthy of being guided towards it by God. And that is why it's a persistent theme in the Quran that God guides those who want guidance. He does not force down guidance upon people. If they don't want to be guided, He does not guide them. And this is the situation in which there is a time which is reached in which their hearts get sealed. And even if they want to, no guidance gets into them, because they deserve no guidance because of their persistent denial of the guidance that they were born with. And then, of course, the opposite of people who accept the law of God, about whom we know that they are righteous, they are self-conscious, and they are conscientious, and they, at the same time, they follow their conscience. About them it is said, "Ulaika ashabul jannah hum fiha khalidun." So people who do good will be not only rewarded by that goodness, but much more than that. And these are the people about whom it is said that they are the people of paradise, and they will stay in it forever. وَالَّذِينَ كَسَبُوا السَّيِّئَاتِ جَزَاءُ سَيِّئَةٍ بِمِثْلِهَا وَتَرْهَقُهُمْ ظِلَّةٌ مَا لَهُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ عَاصِمٍ كَأَنَّمَا أُغْشِيَتْ وُجُوهُهُمْ قِطْعًا مِّنَ اللَّيْلِ مُظْلِمًا كَأُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. On the other hand, those who have earned evil, then the law of God is that the recompense of an evil is equal to it. Humiliation shall overspread them. No one will be able to save them from God. Such will be their faces, as if they have been covered with pieces of a dark night. It is they who are the companions of hell. They shall abide in it forever. So this is like a sentence that's more parenthetical in nature. It tells us within the discourse that how they will look on the day of judgment. Humiliation shall overspread them. No one will be able to save them from the wrath of God. And these are the people who are the companions of fire. Ulaika ashabun nar hum fiha khalidun. So remember, this is a very common practice of the Quran, that it mentions the fate of the disbelievers, and adjacent to that, it also mentions the fate of the believers. So we had the words Ulaika ashabul jannah in the previous verse, and now we have the words Ulaika ashabun nar. So about the previous verse, it was said that people who follow these ways, they are the companions of hell and now companions of paradise. And now it's said that these are the people who are the companions of hell. And hum fiha khalidun, they'll stay in paradise forever. وَيَوْمَ نَحْشُرُهُمْ جَمِيعًا ثُمَّ نَقُولُ لِلَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا مَكَانَكُمْ أَنْتُمْ وَشُرَكَاؤُكُمْ فَزَيَّلْنَا بَيْنَهُمْ وَقَالَ شُرَكَاؤُهُمْ مَا كُنْتُمْ إِيَّانَ تَعْبُدُونَ. They should remember the day when we shall gather all of them, then shall say to those who are guilty of polytheism, keep to your place, you and the partners also, you associated with God. Then we will alienate them from one another, and their associates with God will say, you would not worship us. You see, this is like an announcement of acquittal. They shall be separated from one another. And they should remember that this would be the day in which people who were guilty of polytheism, they will be told that this is like a place of doom for you. You just stand out from other people. You have a separate place. It's like saying that ashraku makanakum antum wa shurakaukum, that keep to your place, you and the partners you also associate with God. And God will then alienate them from one another, and their associates will say to God that you would not worship us. So this is like a big irony, that the deities that they would worship, they would call out on that day that we never knew that you were worshiping us. We were not even aware that we have been regarded as deities by you. And فَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ شَهِيدًا بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكُمْ إِن كُنَّا عَنْ عِبَادَتِكُمْ لَغَافِلِينَ. So sufficient is God as a witness between us. In reality, we were totally unaware of your worship. So this is how they will throw back their own statement on themselves, that basically we did not even know that you were worshiping us. It's something that you did out of your own. We never called you to worship us. هنالك تبلو كل نفس ما أسفلت وردوا إلى الله مولاهم الحق وضل عنهم ما كانوا يفترون. At that time, each person will encounter his deeds he had done before, and people will be returned to their true master, and the falsehood they had invented by making their deities will all vanish from them. So viewers, as you can clearly see, that here it is something of a stigma that people think when they feel that they have been religiously inclined to certain facts. The fact is that to be a seeker of the truth, the fact is that to be a person who is actually walking and treading towards finding out the truth is the person about whom we can say that he is trying to successfully encounter the terrain of life. And the fact is that at that time, each person will encounter his deeds he had done. That is, of course, the day of judgment. And people will be returned to their true Lord. So this is like, again a sarcastic remark that people think that they'll go back to their deities. That's not the case. Ruddu ilallahi mawlahumul haq. They will in fact go to their real God. And وَضَلَّ عَنْهُمْ مَا كَانُوا يَفْتَرُونَ. And whatever thing that they were worshipping, they will just vanish. So viewers, once again, we have this very strong theme. Remember, almost 2/3 of the Quran was revealed regarding these polytheists who lived in Mecca. The Prophet spent a better part of his life amongst them, and almost 2/3 of the Quran deals with this polytheism. So unless you are fully aware of the background, you will not feel the importance of why polytheism and its practices are discussed repeatedly in the Quran. So it's like telling all of us that basically the atmosphere in which the Quran was revealed was an atmosphere in which polytheism was the name of the game. It was like everything for them, and it was a society that was deeply steeped in this tradition of polytheism for many years, for hundreds of years. So it was like the Quran had to hammer certain realities in their minds. It had to take out certain realities from their minds and start afresh. So that is why you see how at times the Quran goes to great lengths in trying to explain how polytheism is something which is so unnatural, something which is against their own nature. So with this we come to an end to this discussion from verses 15 to 30. And now, if you have any questions, you have the time to ask them.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saleem, and assalamu alaikum, everyone. Please, first, some house rules. Make sure that your questions are related to the passage that Dr. Saleem just read for us. So, if anybody has any questions, kindly raise your hand so I can address them. Shabana Ansari, please go ahead, ask your question.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम डॉक्टर साहब,
जी भाई।
हमेशा ये कहा जाता रहा है हिस्ट्री में और उसमें कि आमतौर पे जो है इंसानियत जो है वो शिर्क का शिकार रही है, मुशरिक ही रहे हैं, जबकि यहाँ अल्लाह ताला ये बता रहा है कि इंसान जो है वो हिदायत पर ही था, सही रास्ते पर था, लेकिन फिर आपस की बगावत की वजह से या आपस की दुश्मनी की वजह से उन्होंने जो है वो फर्क किया। यही बता रहे हैं ना
You
कि
see,
वो
that is
मतलब
what the claim of the Quran is, that it did not start off with just humanity. It started off with the prophet of God. So the first person was a prophet of God. So which automatically tells us that how could a prophet be guilty of polytheism? So the very first person was chosen as a prophet. So the Quran mentions Adam as a prophet of God, which clearly tells us that the world began with monotheism. And later on, it drifted into polytheistic practices. And this was much like what happened in the land of Hijaz. So see, 2,000 years ago, when Prophet Abraham had settled his progeny in this land, it was a land of monotheism, because the Holy Kaaba was built at that time, and people would come from all parts of the Arabian Peninsula to do Hajj, etc. So it all began with this note of monotheism, and much before Prophet Abraham, of course, we had Prophet Adam, about which we don't even know the time that has lapsed between these two prophets of God. But the fact is that just as the land of Arabia got incriminated with polytheism after it had begun with the Holy Kaaba and Prophet Abraham initiating monotheism, that's what happened in this world as well. And the reasons for polytheism are not just personal wranglings. They are different, and foremost among them is the fact that people think that God is aloof. He's someone that we just cannot reach. He's beyond our reach. So they look for intercessors, they look for mediators, they look for go in between, so that they think that, well, if God is aloof, if God is someone that we cannot access, then we need to access. So, I mean, at the moment, I'm not discussing polytheism in detail, but primarily it is something that began because, as a result of certain human tendencies, they started to fear God at times. They started to feel that they cannot get in touch with God. They need the help of other people. So all these and some others, of course, were the factors that led them to actually digest this creed of polytheism.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Saleem. Naushad Shafqat Saab, please ask your question.
Sir, my question relates to what you just said, that probably the feelings grew amongst the people that God was aloof. And could this have come from the Old Testament? Because there is a book by a Jewish rabbi, When Bad Things Happen to Good People, in which he says that we believe that God created this world and then laid down certain rules and then left it to its own mercies or to its own program. Could that be a reason?
I think we need to understand that, you see, the land of the Old Testament and the time that it had come down in the time of Moses, polytheism had started much before that. And the land of Canaan, which was inhabited by 7 famous tribes, the Jebusites, the Girgashites, the Perizzites, and some others, all of them were deeply already incriminated with the creed of polytheism. And so that is something which happened in the land of Canaan, which is, of course, at some distance from the land of Arabia. If you look at the history of the land of Arabia, you'll see that about 7 or 8 generations, or maybe some even more, there was this person, Fahar, or Louis ibn Ka'b, as they called, and he had brought a certain idol and placed it, and it got the attention and the fancy of people. And then polytheism crept into the land of Arabia. So you see, every area has its own history. For the Old Testament, the land was Palestine, or the Canaan area. For this area, the Hijaz area, it was basically one of the ancestors of the Prophet who did so. But the reasons are quite similar. And the reason, of course, one of them is aloofness. One of them is the alleged inaccessibility of God for human beings.
Thank you for that,
Thank
Dr.
you so
Saleem.
much. Thank you.
So I have a question, Dr. Saleem. Could the reason also be that the humans were competing with each other, that my God is bigger than your God, so making a more like a bigger statue That's
So see, that's a later introduction, I would say. Earlier on, there was no competition. So earlier on, it was just that people thought, out of fear, that if they don't worship other people or other deities who are able to help them from the particular calamity that is hiding in that place, they'll not be able to secure themselves. So there was not a competition initially. That was much later that the competition that it brewed, and it brewed in certain areas. But if you see in Arabia also, the Quran is vocal about it, that there were certain deities like Lat, Manat, and Uzza, as Surah Najm says, that they were given a certain order of preference, and people followed that. So even then, the difference here had settled, and they regarded certain deities to be the greater ones, and the others are the lesser ones. So, amongst various tribes in Arabia, we find that over 350 statues and idols were placed in the Holy Kaaba because each tribe followed a different idol. But this was not a competition among them. It was more of a, I would say, accommodation in which they tolerated each other. They said, we have our own idol and we would worship them. And in Surah Nuh, we have their names as well. They are mentioned, Wud and Uz and all of them. So although they were in the times of Prophet Noah, but it seems that they resurfaced in the times of Arabia, and they had their own order of preference as well.
okay. So I have a question, Dr. Saleem. I'm not sure if it's related to the passage, but I think it is. So who was Prophet Adam teaching to if there were no other humans except him and Eve?
Remember, Prophet Adam had a very long life. And so he, of course, was a person who spent time amongst several generations of humankind. We don't know how many, but quite a few of them. Of course, they were all his descendants. And in spite of being amongst them, there were times in which they might have, we can see, deviated. But the point that was made earlier on was that this world started with God's guidance, not only that guidance that we are born with, like our innate guidance, but divine guidance. So the difference is, it's not essential that they arose in the times of Prophet Adam. It could have been much later. So Adam was the first prophet. He lived amongst his descendants. There were people who were spread out. As we know, that this has happened in world history, that how civilizations and populations, they move out of one place and they go to another place. So primarily he was teaching to his descendants, and the differences that arose, it's not essential that they necessarily arose in his own times. And also we need to understand that in those times the life expectancy and the lifespan was for centuries, like 700 or 800 years, even more, even less. So about the Prophet Noah, we know from the Quran that he lived and preached amongst his nation for 950 years. So that's what the Quran itself has told us about Prophet Noah. And we do know from historical, I would say, references as well, that ages started to diminish. So since we don't even know the exact time that lapsed between Adam and Noah, and by the way, Noah is actually called Adam the second, because it was in his times that a major part of the world population was destroyed from that deluge, that storm, and it restarted. So there were quite a lot of time between the two. So as far as the Adam and Noah are concerned, although we cannot estimate their time, but we are able to understand that they are the ones through which population prospered, and it fell towards its own self at times. And then the Quran has made another very important statement, which is pertinent to this discussion as well. And it is said that likulli ummatin rasul, that initially different settlements came up on the globe, and the Almighty says that to every community that settled, we sent a messenger. And then it further says and tells the Arabs that not all the messengers that came in this world have been described in the Quran. The Quran describes only those messengers primarily about whom the Arabs would have known, because basically it was addressing them.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Amar, please ask your question.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Sahab.
Hello.
Dr. Sahab, my question was that these verses that we have studied today, they are making such a strong case for God being the only true creator and sustainer, and also it speaks against polytheism. But does the Quran in any place, like for example, for me, the most powerful incident where God literally took away all his veils was, all the signs that he sent to Prophet Moses time to the nations present in Prophet Moses' time. Yet in a very short span of time, they were the Bani Israel were worshipping a calf. So does the Quran anywhere, for example, give us why constantly there is an inclination in humankind to create other gods? Whereas,
I think
even if, yes, sorry.
I think the parable which the Bible has often cited is a very good eye opener that can make us understand why this keeps on happening. So the Quran has compared polytheism to marital unfaithfulness. So just as I mean, God is one, and if you deviate from that, it's like being unfaithful in His tawheed. So the Almighty has compared in the previous scriptures that this is like similar to someone who marries and then he looks out of his wedlock, or the woman looks out of her wedlock, and goes towards other people. It's like marital unfaithfulness is compared to spiritual or monotheistic unfaithfulness. Why does that happen? I mean, if you look at the reason for that, you'll be able to find out the reason for the other as well. So just as people are not satisfied with one spouse at times, they feel that their needs are not met, they find someone more attractive outside their own marriage bond, and etc. There could be a host of reasons. So in a similar way, at times they feel that God is not taking care of them. Maybe His help is not arriving. So a lot of, I mean, ascription towards polytheism is the fact that the calamities that people pass through, they think that, well, maybe there is some anger in God. And they don't realize that these calamities are not always for punishment. They are meant to try and test them. They try to lift them, uplift them. They make them stronger than before. So because they have a different reason for these calamities, so they think that, well, they have to find some other way out. So they go around that whole concept. So I think it's just a question of seeing that how marital unfaithfulness at times makes a person weak, at times a person insecure, at times he or she does not realize that the spouse, whatever he's doing or she's doing for that person, is for that marriage bond. And that marriage bond can never be perfect. But in the case of God, of course, that's like a subset to the whole situation. In the case of God, at times, because you cannot see Him, you are not able to communicate with Him in the sense that you receive any direct communication. So you start making inferences, you derive wrong conclusions. And so there are a host of reasons. And I think one of them is because God is not right in front of us. We are not at all times able to make sense of His decisions. Instead of trusting Him in those decisions, we think that they are going against us. And so we need to do a remedy. We want to remedify the situation as soon as possible. And for this, we then find subterfuges and various other ways to just secure ourselves.
Sir, my confusion on this, sorry, am I allowed just to follow up?
Yeah, as long as it's, yeah, we have a few more
I'll try to
questions.
keep
Go
it.
ahead. Yeah,
Okay,
make it
yes.
short.
So, sir, my question on this matter, polytheism specifically, is it not God Himself who is then making it easy for those people to believe in those other deities? For example, if somebody does not find what he's looking for from the God of Islam, and he goes to a peer fakir, or he goes to an intermediary that he has given power to himself, or he goes to Hanuman or Lakshmi Devi, or whichever other god, then it is actually Allah Himself who is answering his prayers that he put at the altar of Hanuman. Like if somebody asks a certain something from Hanuman, then it is actually Allah Himself who is giving that person that thing. And Allah is helping him believe in Hanuman even strongly by giving him that thing. That always confuses me. Like
So you
in the
see,
sense that this problem would be solved if Allah stopped giving people who asked from other
yeah.
gods.
See, this is not the way of God, that He forces people to His own self or does not provide enough deviation. So these are all His trials and tests, which at times come and they test our faith. And so what happens is that God has given you that guidance that you have in your own human nature. So the first premise about this is that the fact that there is one God, this is something which is found in human nature. You don't even need to read the scripture for that purpose. Your own human nature tells you that you can just be a servant of one God. So you cannot have multiple masters. This is like an unnatural situation. So I think if people remain true to their nature, if they find that nature is something that has not perverted itself, then finding one God is not that difficult. The second thing is that God has not stopped here. He's not just stopped at the fact that you just look at your own nature. He has sent down His guidance. He has sent down His books. The Quran is a preserved book today. So if people go to Hanuman, or they go to Lakshmi Devi, or they go to any other deity, the fact is that guidance and error have been made evident by God in this book of God. And if they choose some other thing over the book of God, I mean, so that is not what God would like them to do, but He would not stop them to do, because basically it's a trial of your own choice. So what God has said is that I have made guidance clear to you. It has been enshrined. It's found. It's not only in your own self, but outside of your own self. And now you have to choose. So people, if they choose a deviant path out of their own, God is not going to stop them. This is not His way. He'll let them do it, because basically it's a trial of your freedom of choice.
Thank you for that, Dr. Saleem. Another question, chat question. Does the passage anywhere mention that the Prophet was 40 years old?
No, it does not mention. All that it mentions is فَقَدْ لَبِسْتُ فِيكُمْ عُمَرًا. It says that I have spent a whole lifetime among you. It's like that. So it's like saying that out of the passage, because historical books claim, or they state, that the first revelation came to the Prophet when he was 40 years old. So that is how it is implied. But it's not that the Quran says so. The Quran just says that he spent quite an amount of time. So because outside the Quran, the historical references say 40, so people generally make this conclusion. However, this is not pertinent at all. All that we need to know about this is, even if he's not 40, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, the Quran is making this claim that he was in a very mature, settled life in which people knew about him. And if he was to author a book at the age of a person who was, let's say, advanced in age, this could not have happened suddenly. I mean, you don't become a poet or an author suddenly. You write in various stages, and then there is a stage in which you write your magnum opus, or you write your best product. So it's not something that happens automatically. This can only happen automatically if it is something that is God given.
Okay. Bhatti Saab, please ask your question, and if I can request for you that it's related to the passage. Thank you. Bhatti Saab,
sir.
yeah, go ahead.
By Islam.
Sir, is it correct to believe that all the prophets gave the same instruction that we have in the Quran?
Oh yes, absolutely. This is what the Quran has claimed. That
So,
inna awhayna ilayka kama awhayna ila Nuhin wa nabiyyina min ba'di, that we have given you the same revelation as we gave to the earlier prophets. So the guidance that was given by all prophets of God is exactly the same. So this guidance actually relates to your faith and to your morals. Now there are certain issues, that certain parts of the Sharia, which means how you conduct yourselves in this world, which have evolved because of evolvement in circumstances. Otherwise, the basic message of religion that relates to faith and morality has always been the same in all the books of God. And this is something that you can check today. If you read previous scriptures, you'll find that faith and morality, the way they describe them, barring certain distortions, they are exactly the same as what the Quran describes.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. I have a couple of more questions, but I think they're related to the general questions. I'll come back to them in the end. If you can just continue with your idiomatic translation, Dr. Saleem.
Okay, so we'll start off with verse 15. And Iza, when tutla recited alayhim, over them, ayatuna, our revelations, bayyanat, which are very, very clear. Qala, say, allazina, those who, la, not, yarjuna, hope, liqa'ana, meeting us. What do they say? I'ti bi Quran, bring a Quran, ghayri haza, other than this. Bring a Quran other than this. Aw, or baddilhu, change this one. Either you bring a new Quran or you change the current one. Qul, tell them, ma yakunu li, it is not for me, an ubaddilahu, that I change it, min, from, tilqa'i nafsi, my own self. I cannot change it for my own self. In, not, attabi'u, I follow, illa, except, ma, what, yuha, has been revealed, ilayya, towards me. I do not follow anything except what has been revealed to me. Inni, I, akhafu, fear. In, if, asaitu, I am disobedient, Rabbi, to my Lord, azaba, torment, yawmin azim, of a horrible day. So, I fear that if I show disobedience to my Lord, then I will face a torment of a horrible day. Kul, say, Law Sha Allah, had God wanted, ma, not, talautuhu, would have recited to you. I would not have recited it to you. So, had God wanted, I would not have recited it. It refers to the Quran. I would not have recited the Quran alaykum towards you or upon you. Wa and la not adrakum bihi or informed you bihi about it. Fa, therefore, qad indeed, labisto, I have spent, fikum, among you, umara, a vast age, min qablihi, before this. So I have spent a lifetime before you, before this time. Afala, is it not? Taqilun, you take, you use your senses. So is it not that you should use your senses? Fa, therefore, man who, azlamu, more unjust, mimman iftara, than the person who concocts, alallahi, upon God, kaziba, a lie, au, or kazaba, rejects, bi ayatihi, his revelations. So who can be more unjust than the person who actually alleges a lie on God or denies his revelations? Innahu, indeed, la, not, yuflihu, succeed, al mujrimun, the criminals. Indeed, the criminals will not succeed. وَيَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ wa, and يَعْبُدُونَ, they worship, min dunillahi, besides God, ma, those, la, not, yadurruhum, harm them, wala yanfa'uhum, or benefit them. So they worship besides God those deities who neither harm them nor benefit them. Wa, and yaquluna, they say, haulai, all these, shufa'una, are our intercessors in the law, before God. So they say that all these are our intercessors before God. Qul, say, atunabbi'un Allah, do you inform God bima la ya'lam, about that which he does not know, fis samawat, in the heavens, wala fil earth, or in the sky, or in the earth. So are you informing God of that which he himself has no knowledge, neither in this world, neither in the heavens, neither in the skies, nor in the earth? Subhanahu, exalted or pure, wa ta'ala, and uplifted he, amma, from, yushrikun, they associate. So he is exalted and beyond what they associate with him. Wa, and ma kanan nasu, ma, not, kanan nas, people, illa, except, ummatan wahida, one community. So people were only one community. Fakhtalafu, then they differed. Wa, and laula, if not, kalimatun, a matter, sabaqat min rabbika would have proceeded, from your Lord, laquziya bainahum, it would have been decided between them, fima, about, fihi, in which, yakhtalifun, they had been differing. So had a matter or an issue not been decided earlier on by your Lord, it would have, the issue in which they are differing, or they were differing, bainahum fima fihi yakhtalifun, the matter would have been decided among them. It's just the question of the fact that God had already decided when this would happen. وَيَقُولُونَ, and يَقُولُونَ, they say, laula, does not, unzila alayhi would mean has come down to him, ayah, a sign, mir rabbihi, from his Lord. So they say, why was not a sign sent to their prophet by their Lord? Why was not a sign of, of course, as we have just discussed, a sign here refers to the fact that the sign of punishment doesn't come to visit them from their Lord. Fa, therefore, qul, say, innamal ghaib, indeed the unseen, lillah, is for God, which means the unseen is only known to God. Fantaziru, fa, therefore, intaziru, wait. So you people wait. Inni, I, ma'akum, with you, minal muntazirin, among those who wait. You people wait, and I will also wait among you, or with you. Wa, and iza, when, azakna, we make taste, annas, people, rahma, our mercy, mimbad, after, dharra, after calamity, massathum, that has struck them, إِذَا لَهُمْ مَكْرٌ فِي آيَاتِنَا, they start to present excuses. إِذَا لَهُمْ مَكْرٌ, they start to present excuses. Fi, in ayatina, our revelations. قُلِ اللَّهُ أَسْرَعُ مَكْرًا. Kul, tell them, Allah, God, asra'u, faster, makra, in such matters. So God is much faster in making such excuses if He wants to. Inna, indeed, rusulana, our messengers, yaktubuna, are writing, ma, what, tamkurun, what they are plotting. So inna rusulna, of course, they are referring to our angels, our messengers, our angels are writing what they are plotting, what they are scheming. Huwa allazi, huwa, indeed, huwa is he, allazi, who, yusayyirukum, who makes you travel, fill in, al-bar, by land, wal-bahr, and by sea. So it is he who makes you travel by land and by sea. Hatta, until, iza kuntum fil fulk, until when, kuntum, you, fil fulk, in the ship, until when you are in the ship. Wajraina bihim, and the ship is sailing, jarayna bihim, the ship is sailing with them, birihin tayyiba, with a wind. Rihin is the wind, tayyiba, which is favorable. So when it is sailing with them with a wind which is favorable, wa, and farihu biha, and people are also happy. Farihu, happy, biha, with this. Ja'atha, comes to them, rihun, of wind, asifun, which is stormy. So when everything is fine, suddenly a stormy wind comes over them. Waja'ahumul mawj, and comes to them al mawj, waves. Min kulli makan, from every place. Min kulli makan, min, from, kul, every, makan, place, from every place. Wa, and zannu, they think, annahum, that they are, uhita bihim, that they are doomed by it, they have been caught by it. Da'awullah, da'ullah, da'u means they call Allah, God, mukhlisina lahuddin, while being very sincere. Mukhlisin actually means sincere, lahuddin, in their obedience. Ad-din here is referring to obedience. And what is that? La in, if, anjaytana, you deliver us, min hazihi, from this storm, lanakunanna, we shall be, minash shakirin, among the grateful. So if you deliver us from this storm, we will be among the grateful. Fa, therefore, lamma, when, anja'ahum, when God actually delivers them, He saves them, izahum, that they, yabghuna, they show rebelliousness, fil ard, in the land, bighairil haq, without any justification, without any basis. Ya ayyuhan nas, O people. So remember, it is from here that the Quraysh are directly addressed, and the word an-nas, though refers to mankind or people in general, it is actually referring to the Prophet's tribe. Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, innama, indeed, baghyukum, your rebelliousness, ala, upon, anfusikum, your own selves. Your rebelliousness is on your own selves, literally, and actually means that the fate of this rebelliousness is going to be suffered by your own self. Mata al hayat dunya. So here there is a verb which is suppressed, and it would be mata al hayat dunya, which means that benefit from this from the world, the life of the world. Haya is life, dunya is this world. So benefit from the life of this world. Thumma, then, ilayna, towards us. Marji'ukum, will you return. Fanunabbi'ukum, fa, then, nunabbi'ukum, we will inform you, bima kuntum, what you were, ta'malun, doing. So we will inform you what you were doing in the past. Innama, indeed, masalul hayatid dunya, masal, example, hayatid dunya, the life of this world. The example of the life of this world, what is it? Kama, in, ka is like, ma, in, water. Anzalnahu, that we sent down, minas sama, from the skies. Fakhtalata bihi. Fakhtalafata bihi would mean that then it became thick through it. Nabatul ard, the vegetation of the earth. Mimma, from, yakulun nas, from which ate people. So that vegetation was one from which people would eat. Mimma, from which, yakulu, eat, an-nas, people. Wa, and, al-an'am, their livestock or their animals. So that vegetation which sprouted, that came out from the earth, the foliage, the thick vegetation, what happened? It was mimma ya'kulun nas, from it people ate, and their animals or their livestock they also ate. Hatta, until, iza, when, akhazatil ardu, the earth got hold of its zukhrufaha, which means its embellishment. So literally it means that then when the earth embellished itself, it started to bloom. Was zayyanat, and it became lush. Wazanna ahluha, and zanna means thought. Ahluha, the inhabitants. Annahum, that they are. Qadiruna, they have authority. Alayha, over it. So when the earth started to embellish and started to bloom and become lush, the people who were there, they thought that they have authority over it, which means that they could do anything with it. Ataha, came to them. Amruna, our decision. Laylan, at night. Or nahara, by day. So came to them our decision by night or day. فَجَعَلْنَاهَا fa, therefore جَعَلْنَاهَا, we made it hasida. So we made it hasida. So hasida is something which is totally chopped to pieces. Ka'anna, as if, lam, not, taghna, bil ams, existed, bil ams, yesterday. So we shattered it, we crushed it to pieces and bits as if it never existed yesterday. Kazalika, in this way, nufassil, we detail out al ayat, our revelations, liqaumin, for people, yatafakkarun, who think. So in this manner do we detail out our revelations for people who think. Wallahu, wa, indeed, Allah, God, yad'u, calls you, ila, towards, dar es salam, the place of peace. So God calls you towards the place of peace. Wa, and, yahdi, guides, man yasha, whoever he wants, ila, towards, sirat, path, mustaqim, straight. So he guides whoever he wants to towards the straight path. Lillazina, for those who, ahsanu, who were righteous, al husna wa ziyada, for them is goodness, wa ziyada, and even more than that, even more than that. Wa, and, la yarhaquhum, la yarhaqu wujuhahum, wa, wala would mean, and not, yarhaqu, come to, wujuhahum, their faces, qatarun, any blackness, wala zilla, or any humiliation. So neither any blackness nor any humiliation will come over their faces. Wujuh is the plural of wajh, and that means face. Ulaika, it is these, ashab, people, al jannah, of paradise. So these are the people of paradise, whom they will, fiha, in it, khalidun, forever, and they will stay in it forever. Wallazina, those who, kasabu sayyiat, who earned bad deeds, which means who actually did bad deeds. Jazau sayyiatin, the fate of an evil deed, bimisliha, is something which is similar to it. Wa tarhaquhum zilla, tarhaquhum will overcome them, will come to them, zilla, humiliation, and humiliation will be something that's going to be that's going to overspread them. Ma lahum min Allahi min asim, ma, not, lahum, for them, min Allahi, from God, min asim, any protector, and they will not have any protector from God. There will be none to save them. Ka'annama, as if, ukhshiyat, ukhshiyat would mean that it has been enveloped. Wujuhum, their faces, so their faces have been enveloped. Qita'am, qita' means a piece, min, from, a layl, night, muslima, dark. It will be as if their faces have been enveloped with a dark piece of night, just signaling the fact how they will be overcome with this humiliation. Ulaika ashabul jannah, these are the people of hell, whom they, fiha, in it, khalidun, live forever. Wa yawma nahshuruhum, wa, and yawma nahshuruhum actually means remember the day when we shall bring together, jamia, all of them. Nahshuruhum jamia, we shall bring all of them together. Summa, then, naqulu, we will say, lillazina, those who, ashraku, committed polytheism, makanakum, stay at your place, antum, you, wa shurakaukum, and your intercessors should also stay at their place. فَزَيَّلْنَا بَيْنَهُمْ, fa, therefore, zayyalna means that we will separate between them, bainahum, between them. So they will be bifurcated, they will be separated, and they will be distinct from one another. وَقَالَ شُرَكَاؤُهُمْ مَا كُنْتُمْ إِيَّانَا تَعْبُدُونَ, wa, and qala, said, shurakauhum, their intercessors, Ma kuntum, not we, not that you, iyana astarbudun, worship. So we do not know that you would worship us, or you would not worship us. So this is the words of these intercessors. Ma waqala shurukahum, these intercessors would say, Ma kuntum, you not iyana us worship. You did not worship us. Fa, therefore, kafa, enough. Billahi is God. Shahida is witness. So God as a witness is sufficient. Bainana, between us, wa bainakum, and between you. In kunna an ibadatina laghafilin. In indeed kunna we an ibadatikum, from your worship, laghafilin, without knowledge. So we did not know that you are worshipping us. Hunalika, at that time, tablu. Tablu would mean that kullu nafsin, every person, tablu will face ma aslafat, what he did. At that time, every person will face what he did. Wa ruddu, wa and ruddu, they will be returned ilallah, towards God. Maulahum, who is their true master? Al-Haq, the truthful. He is the one who is their true master. وَظَلَّ, and zalla would mean that vanish, anhum, from them, ma kanu yaftarun, the evil that they had been fabricating. So the evil that they had been fabricating, وَظَلَّ anhum, will just vanish from them. So with this, we come to an end to the literal and idiomatic translation as well. And now you can continue with your questions.
If anybody has any questions, kindly raise your hand if they pertain to the passage. Or you can type them in the group chat, of course, so I can read them out to Dr. Saleem and get an answer. Okay, Shabana Ansari, please go ahead and ask your question.
डॉक्टर साहब जो ये जो कह रहे हैं कि बददिलु हाज़िल कुरान, तो वो भी ये एक एब्सर्ड ही मुतालबा ऐसे ही है ना, जैसे वो कहते थे कि शायर हैं, काहिन हैं, तो मानना तो उनको था नहीं, वो बस एक ऐसे ही मुतालबा था, बहाना था कि ना मानने का ना.
So these are lame excuses that they would present. Obviously, they would never have accepted whatever presented. When they saw that there was no headway that they could make, so in order to buy time, in order to make other people realize that they are trying to accommodate them, they would just fabricate these excuses. They were absolutely baseless.
और जरईना का मतलब वो जैसे जारी तजरी उसी से है ना.
Correct. Correct.
ठीक है, thank you.
Abid, please ask your question.
Dr. Sahab, my question is, the punishment God is showing in the ayat, is that these punishments are metaphoric because we can't comprehend that situation, after life. So can you just elaborate that how God is trying to tell us that these are the punishment, because we will be helpless over there, and the things will be very, very odd for the person, that he's already on the mercy of God, and God is now the crushing and doing everything he can do that. So is that metaphorically what's God is trying to drive from all these?
That's no metaphor. That's the reality. God is just trying to tell us that if you don't mend your ways, if you are arrogant, if you deny a reality, in spite of the fact that you find it to be truthful, you acknowledge a reality, and then you say out of arrogance that I'm not going to believe you, then your abode is hell, and various punishments of hell are mentioned. They will be given hot water and pus to drink. They will feel as if they are neither dying or not living. They will be given thorny bushes to eat. So there's a whole description of hell that you find all over the Quran. So this is not a metaphor. It's a real description, which means that these are the things that are going to happen. The only thing is that the nature and extent of these things might be a little bit more or different, because the words for those punishments, we don't have them exactly because they have not been invented. So what God does is that He uses words from our own language in order to give us some idea. So we would not have we would know that hell would have bushes or thorny bushes, but what kind of these thorny bushes would be there, we can only have an idea because we can see thorny bushes in our own country, in our own earth. But the nature of those thorny bushes of hell would be, of course, different. But what would be common is that we would have some idea that just as when we are caught up in a thorny bush, it really injures us. So the thorny bushes of hell would be much more than that. So basically, it's like communicating a reality regarding which words have not been invented, but similar words are used so that we can have some idea of what is being talked about.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. I have a couple of chat questions that are not related to the passage, and no raised hand. So can I just ask them, Dr. Saleem?
Yes, please.
So did Adam receive guidance from Allah? If so, in which form?
So that is revelation, which is divine revelation. That is called wahi by the Quran. We don't find any book that is ascribed to him, and that would have been also quite impossible because writing had not been even invented by that time. So it was all oral communication, and that oral communication is mentioned in the Quran in the form that the Quran says "Fajtabahu Rabbuhu" or "Ishtabainahu." So "Ishtaba" is a Quranic word which means that we chose him as a prophet, and about the communication that God makes with these prophets, that's mentioned elsewhere in Surah Shura, for example. And it says that one of the ways in which God communicates his messages is that he puts his words, or he makes his words enter the heart of a person who is chosen as a prophet, and he knows that this is the communication from God.
Okay. Another question, please. How was the progeny of Adam and Eve evolved, and meaning the marriage process? That's the question.
So there can be two possibilities. Of course, remember that basically the prohibition of marriage between brothers and sisters arose once family structures had evolved, and that took some time. So initially, it does seem that the prohibition between various relations started off with prohibition of marriage between parents and their children. So there could have not been a marriage between a father and a daughter, or a son or a mother. But marriage between siblings is something that evolved over a period of time. And of course, because of these prohibitive relations that are primarily meant to protect a family, and the family itself evolved after some time. So until that happened, it does seem that this intermarriage between the siblings, it did take place. This is one explanation, and the other explanation is, remember that I discussed with when we were actually discussing a topic related to evolution, in which we saw that how Adam was the first individual who was selected as a person who was perfected and given the first job. But that does not preclude the fact that there were other human beings besides Adam who were not selected for this purpose, but they still existed and they had their own progeny. And of course, that progeny died away in its own time, it did not continue. So the other scenario could be that Adam's children actually married with their cousins who existed outside of that human bond, of that I would say human civilization. I mean, human. When I say human, I refer to Homo sapiens.
Okay, Naushad Shafqat, please ask your question.
Yes, Dr. Just a short question. Can we name children after the angels like Gabriel and Michael?
Oh yes,
Is that
I
prohibited?
think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's fine. If
Thank
we
you.
can name, if we can name them after prophets of God, why can't we name them after messengers who are messengers to the prophets of God?
Exactly, I was saying this. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, another question, Dr. Saleem. The time period between Adam and Noah, roughly?
No, we don't have any time. Any sort of time preference would be just a wild guess, and I do refrain from making wild guesses. All that we know is that a major part of the earth was destroyed at one time in the deluge that was sent in the times of Noah, and that is precisely why he's called Adam the Second, because it's like taking a new start. And not that every single inhabitant was destroyed, only those people who were denied were destroyed, but it does seem that they covered a very major part. But the time lapse between Adam and Noah is something that we cannot even make a wild guess about.
Okay, Dr. Saleem, we have no more questions, chat questions or hand raised, but just a quick question. Where does this number of 1 lakh 24,000 coming from for prophets?
So it's a very weak and inauthentic narrative of the prophet. It's not even authentic. It has become very famous. The fact that there were 124,000 prophets of God, and amongst them 313 were messengers. It's just a very, very weak and inauthentic narrative of the prophet, and it has become very famous. We don't have any authentic record of the number of prophets or messengers that have ever come.
Okay. No more chat questions, Dr. Saleem, and no more hands raised. So, inshallah, we'll reconvene next Saturday. Thank you so much for a wonderful session, as always. And have a wonderful week, everyone. We'll see you next week. Khuda Hafiz.
Thank you.